Hello and welcome to tonight's live stream. Just wait for everything to get set up, refresh, make sure it all looks good. My little robot guy here. All right, I think this setup is going to work out perfectly for tonight. So the first thing I wanted to do on tonight's live stream was share a few of my creations. Some of them are recent ones and some of them are some older ones. And this little guy is the robot I made on Let's Make a Robot live stream. And I haven't shared the finished version of him. I did want to go in and add some paint apps, maybe like a black wash, kind of get into those creases, making those, his other details pop out more. But I think for how he is now, I'm just going to leave him alone, but at some point I might go back in and do that. So take a good look at how this little guy turned out. Hello, April. How are you? So I did him, it's been several weeks now, but I was pretty happy how he turned out. He was a fun little thing to do. Just set him back there. Now, last week on my live stream, I made a new shell monster with a little buddy. So I wanted to bring in the finished version of that. So you can see here, I did go ahead and gloss the squished slug. I added some gloss coat to his tongue and to the body. So he's nice and shiny. And I didn't have to re-glue this. I didn't know if I would. I used liquid clay to hold it in place. So I wasn't for sure if that doesn't always hold, but he's in there pretty good. So I shouldn't have any issues with him. You can see I did not gloss him, but he's got some sparklies in him because he's got some of that metallic clay in there. Take a good look at him. We'll set him down. Good 360-degree look at this guy. Gonna bring him to the back here. Now, the other thing I wanted to share was some of my mashups. Now, on my last Andrew's Art and Chat that I did a while back, one of the things that was brought up was if I was going to do some more mashup videos. So, if you're not familiar, last year, starting in May, I did a monthly mashup challenge. And the way I did it back then was I had 10, or was it 20? 10 or 20, I don't remember sure. I think it was 10. It was 5 pop culture things and 5 like generic things like dragon or koala or something like that. And the top 2 of those 2 things that got the most votes would be mashed up into one sculpture. Didn't matter what it was, they were going to be mashed up for that month. So every month for several months I had those choices, a bunch of different choices, and then I would do the mashup. So the first mashup I did was an Iron Man Ninja Turtle. So this is the one I did in May of last year. So if you've been on my channel, you've seen him, but I know not everybody's seen all of my videos, so I wanted to bring in some of my mashups since I do have a new plan for those. Hi Myra, how are you? So on the Iron Ninja Turtle, I decided to use Donatello as my base, so I went with the colors for him, and I used glow-in-the-dark Sculpey 3 for the eyes and for the blast. Now this blast was sculpted and baked separately, but I baked that first, and when I sculpted the hand, I indented so I could have a place for that to fit. Then I baked it all and glued this in place. So there's our Iron Ninja Turtles. Now these aren't going to be in order, but I do have my other mashups here. So one of the disturbing ones I did was a zombie Big Bird. Oh, bumping my equipment here. All right, I think we're stable. So I did a zombie Big Bird. And these are all out of polymer clay so far. But I did gloss his eyes, the parts where he's bloody, his stump, his toe there. Get a good look. I did not add a tail to him. But there's my zombie Big Bird. Another one of my mashups, and this is definitely one of my favorites, is the three-eyed alien from Toy Story mashed up with a dragon. I think this one, I wanted to have kind of like a space dragon look to it, and I originally was doing it and I was having it more upright and it just wasn't working. But when I sculpted it down and brought the back up and kind of arched it, I was really happy with the look of this guy. I didn't add any gloss coat to him. He does have pearl eyes, so his eyes are a little bit shinier. And then I just went with the look of the little antenna that the three-eyed aliens have to give him that good mix between a dragon and the Toy Story three-eyed alien. Get him off to the side here. Get everybody in place. Another one that I really was happy with was Voodoo Doll My Little Pony. So again, this is sculpted out of polymer clay. I used real pins for the Voodoo Doll pins. And I just stuck them in and took them out when I baked it because these are plastic. I didn't want to bake those, but I had them all marked. And then I baked it, and then I stuck them back in. So they're in there pretty tight. I didn't glue any of them. You could if you wanted to, but I didn't see the need. And then I used yarn for the tail and the mane. And I just had a little opening there that I was able to stick the yarn in and glue it in place. Same thing with the mane, but it's just a little bit bigger opening. Again, I didn't bake with this. I baked it and then added the mane and the pins. So you can get a good look at our Voodoo Doll My Little Pony. You can see its little cutie mark there. I wanted to do like a Voodoo Doll face on there. Get a good look at that. I don't know where we're going to put her off to the side here. All right, another one I did was a Steampunk Ursula. Hello, Jessica, how are you? Just sharing some of my creations, knocking them over, of course. Makes for good television, I hope. No harm. So, just sharing some of my mashups. Hello, Tome. Good, Jessica, I'm glad to hear it. So right now I'm looking at my Steampunk Ursula for my mashups. I believe this was back in September. So I went with the idea that she was going to be a mechanical beast and something that was, maybe like kind of an octopus type transport for people, in a steampunk world. But they made this robotic Ursula. I even made a little necklace for her and used a real chain. You can see how that turned out. I was really happy with that. She's not overall one of my favorites. I did add a little like window here with some gears in there, and then I put some liquid sculpting in there, and I baked this all separate and then attached it. And if you want to see full videos on my mashup characters, they are all in the mashup playlist on my channel. So I show how I make all of these guys. The last mashup that I made last year was for my 31 Days of Halloween, and I did this mashup of a black cat and a witch. And she was a little more difficult because I did a full like armature for her. And then I used this blue glitter clay for her hat and her cape. Some like translucent clay, I believe, maybe pearl and translucent for the whiskers. I did gloss the nose and the eyes. Her hat kind of gives her a shadow there, but you can see how those shine. And then her broom there, where I've added all the little details to give it a nice look of an old broom. And there's more of that glitter and blue glitter in there. Tom says, I remember when you did this one. Thanks. I'm glad people have been enjoying my content. Hello, Charcoal. How are you? So I do have one more mashup. If you guys have seen, it is... I'm going to get Ursula out of the way because she takes up a lot of space. But this Monday, I shared my video on my Pikazilla, which is my Godzilla Pikachu mashup. Glad you're doing good, Charcoal. Yes, that's a zombie big bird. That's, like I said, I was saying earlier, but you might not have been on yet. I do have videos for all of these guys on my channel of how I've made them. This is all part of my monthly mashup challenge that I did last year. So this latest one is my Pikazilla, Pikachu Godzilla. And this was supposed to be November's, but there were some issues towards the end of last year, and I never got around to making it, so I made it just recently. And this is actually made out of Warbler, so it's actually very sturdy. It's a thermoplastic, so it's not breakable. It is painted, it could chip, but I mean, it's not, I haven't had any issues with them. Hello, Brandy. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks, Charcoal. Says looks great and scary. But if you guys have not watched the zombie, I'm talking about Zombie Big Bird, the Pikazilla sculpture video that is posted, that's my most recent video. Charcoal says, I'm planning on painting an old owl statue I got from the thrift store. That's awesome. Yeah, I love seeing how people will repurpose or upcycle, make art out of thrift store finds. It's a lot of fun. Move some guys around here. If anybody who's just hopping on wants to see a better look at somebody here in the background, let me know. April says, you confused me. It said it was live and it's not. Well, this is live. Tom says, I want to try Warbler. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. The best place that I've found to get Warbler is cosplaysupplies.com. It's a little bit cheaper than what I've found on some other websites, and they do have free shipping, and it ships pretty fast. So I've been really happy with what I've gotten from there. Oh, the Pikazilla, that was a premiere. Sorry for the confusion, April. It's the first time I tried that. It was a premiere for the video, and it's supposed to, like when you premiere it, I think add some hype to it, and that way, like when it premieres, it automatically starts playing like live TV, but there's not like the live comment section that we have on live streams. So Charcoal says he's already Charcoal's already painted the owl white, and so I'll be ready painted. Awesome. So I do have, if anybody has any questions about anything, like I said, I want this to be kind of a Q&A, but I did post earlier on social media. So if there was any questions anybody had that I could have ahead of time, and that way I kind of had a structure for this video. I want you guys to get, as much value as you can out of these streams. I have a lot of fun doing them, and it's nice to kind of have a little bit of direction for them. So that's kind of what I'm going with on this one. So like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. But I did have some questions left on social media. So the first question is, what types of clay have you tried? I have tried recently Sculpey 3, Primo, some eraser clay by Sculpey, and what was that other? It was Bend and Bake, so it was like a rubbery ones. I wasn't too impressed with the eraser clay or the Bend and Bake, but I do want to try the Cos clay, which is another flexible clay that just came out. If you check out Trino Knight's channel, she has a video about Cos clay because she backed it on Kickstarter, so she actually got it before it was released in retail. And it is available in retail now, but I know they have been sold out, so hopefully it might be back in stock by now. Years ago, I've tried Fimo, and of course, I've tried some other generic clays, but my main window as far as like my sculpting like career, I guess, is like the last 9 years. And then before that, you know, it might have been 10 to 15 years before I did anything with sculptures. So I've kind of, you know, bounced around, and then I've stayed consistent for the past 9 years. And I mainly started with Sculpey 3, but I tried out Primo and I like that a little bit better. So Charcoal asks, are mashups when you take already copyrighted characters and combine them with something? It can be. I've done, like my Black Cat Witch. She's just, you know, just a witch and a cat mixed together. But what I did before is I had a voting system, and lots of times the pop culture stuff would get a lot of the votes. So like, you know, like Zombie Big Bird, but this one's like a Voodoo Doll My Little Pony. So these are both like a mix between a generic topic and then a pop culture item. So keep some movement going on here. Jessica says she saw the cosplay video. And what did you think of it, Jessica? It looked like it was pretty interesting stuff. Tom says, I really want to try cosplay. It'll be awesome for wings and horns. Yeah, that'd be a lot. It'd be really cool for that. Definitely. Charcoal says, if that's the case, next time you should do a Fox McCloud. Almost like an actual four-legged fox. Yeah, and that's something I wanted to mention to you guys, because I don't necessarily want to do the voting system. I'm getting a pen here, so I'm kind of stepping out. I don't want to do the voting system. I want just to get ideas from people and go with what, like, I'm inspired to do at the time, because, you know, I had a real hard time doing the Ursula steampunk. And it did seem like a good idea at the time, but it was, you know, once I got around to actually doing it, I didn't have a lot of direction for it. So I want to do a mashup every month, but maybe stuff where people suggest it, like I said. So I think like I'm going to make a note here, a real life Fox McCloud. And put real fox. So I'm not saying I'm for sure going to do that one, Charcoal, but I added it to my list. I did have a viewer on the last one said, because I did Pikazilla, said Charmander mixed with a gremlin, which I think that would be really cool. Jessica says, looked like awesome clay. Cool how you could bend it. Yeah, and like I said, I've had the bend and bake, and that was okay, but it didn't seem like I could do as good a job with it. Like maybe, you know, adding the detail wasn't quite up to par with like Primo. So anyway, I'm gonna get back to the next question on the ones I got from social media, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. So it's back to the clay. It says, what types are good for beginners and what types to stay away from? It really depends. I personally would try out Sculpey 3 first, from my experience, because it's a little bit softer, but it's not as high a quality as Primo. So, I mean, you get what you pay for, and it is cheaper than Primo. But, you know, there's a lot of multi-packs you can get that can give you a variety of colors in one set. So, honestly, I mean, like, if I had no experience or not much experience and I just wanted to try something out, try Sculpey 3, but also go in with the mentality that every kind of clay is different, and you might not be able to sculpt something out of Sculpey 3 and then go into Primo that's just a little bit different and be able to get the sculpt you want out of it, because I feel like it stays a little firmer on most colors and you're able to add detail a little easier, but it is harder to work with. It's harder on my hands than Sculpey 3. So, you know, there's a trade-off with everything. But my short answer is I would try Sculpey 3. I wouldn't necessarily stay away from anything, but maybe, you know, stay away from the more expensive clays just to start out with. My next question is, how well do we need to attach pieces so they don't fall off? Well, that's a tricky question. So characters like this Zombie Big Bird, I use a wire in here for the arm, And I'll usually have a little wire sticking out when I attach the head. So even though it's not, gluing onto that wire, it's going to give it some more support. And then you want to put as much pressure as you can without distorting it. And it's one of those things you're really going to have to get practice with it. You're going to know what's going to work, after you do it several times. Same with these legs, they're not coming off. I probably put a wire in them. I don't remember for sure now. But once you attach them, you put some pressure on it when you're putting that body on there. And then when it bakes, it's going to kind of bond together. Now, also on two pieces like this, you can put some bacon bond or some liquid sculpt in there to help those stick together. So again, a lot of it's going to be some experimenting, but you want to give it a good amount of pressure. The next question is, do you have to soften the clay before creating with it? Yes, I would recommend conditioning your clay. Get it nice and soft. It'll be a little bit easier to sculpt with. It'll be easier to add the details. And I've been told that, that helps it from not cracking in the oven. I've still had pieces crack, but it's recommended you condition it. And again, it's just one of those things, get it soft so it seems nice and workable. If you want to mix colors, I would soften up both colors first. See if I've got like this guy. He's got some mixtures in here. I mixed gold and some of this color for this. And so I softened up both colors first and then mixed them together. So that worked out a little bit better. All right, so the next question. You pre-bake some of your items. Does this cause any issues, or has it caused any issues while baking? No, I have never had any issues with pre-baking. If those of you are not familiar, I just talked about it on this guy, but I pre-baked his blast, and then once that was baked, I sculpted his hand, and I pushed that into place. Now this is a little bit different because then I just glued it on after it was all baked. I never glue any pieces and then put them in the oven. So, but that worked really well for pre-baking and getting the shape I needed to have it coming out of the hand. And I might have used a ball tool in addition to inserting that in there. But something I do pre-bake is my little teeth. And you can see here, this was pre-baked. There's no issues with it. The same with this little tooth. If you watch my Let's Make a Monster live streams, those have a lot of pre-baked parts. And the reason why I do that is so when I add these teeth, or if I add wings or something like that that's pre-baked, I'm not going to distort that sculpt when I'm adding it to the sculpture. Now, another thing is multiple baking sessions. It's the same kind of as pre-baking. But like this guy, I, again, don't remember the exact steps, but I probably sculpted majority of this body and baked it, and then added some of the armor details and then baked it, and then, added the shell and baked it, and so on. And I've baked stuff up to maybe 5 or 6 times, and I've had no issues. This guy doesn't have any cracks. The main thing is don't bake it at a higher temperature than they recommend. It's not going to speed up the baking process. There's no benefit of it. If you're worried about a piece, you can leave it in the oven longer as long as the temperature stays at what the manufacturer recommends. If you're worried about your oven being off on temp, get a separate little thermometer you can put in there. Check the chat here. Tom says I use E6000 for some hard to bond pieces. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people use that. I use super glue gel. The only thing I've had an issue with super glue gel is sometimes it'll get kind of like a frost that will go over where you've glued the item. You can kind of brush that off, but it's just something to keep in mind if it's an area where you don't want any chance to have an issue. I don't know if E6000 does that. Tom, you could probably answer that. I personally have not used it, but I know a lot of people do, and I heard it's a very good very good glue for clay. Charcoal says, remember our little psychic bird, Auskar? you made on the last stream? Of course. And he will be showing up at the beginning of Sunday's Let's Make a Monster live stream. I still need to gloss the eyes. So the next question I had from social media was, what gauge of wire do you use? So the majority of the time, I used this galvanized steel wire 16 gauge. So basically my recommendation on wire is use the thickest wire that you can manipulate easily, meaning you want it to have as much strength to hold up your sculpture, but you don't want to get to the point where you cannot bend it. Now I have used even thicker wire on this large sculpture that I'm doing out of Warbler, but I've never done anything large enough with clay that it should be an issue. So, like I said, 16 gauge is about my default, but I have used, smaller craft wire for putting pieces together and thicker wire for that upcoming giant project. The next question from social media is, have you used other materials besides wire and foil when sculpting with clay as that will bake with it? Yes. So the obvious answer for tonight, because this guy's here, is I've used a couple different things on this guy. I've used a seashell, and I haven't had any issues with those. And I use these little glass beads. Just want to make sure you don't get plastic beads; those could melt. Tome has never had any problems with the E6000, so that's excellent to hear. And I might have to try that out because sometimes the super glue does, like I said, give kind of a frosting discolorization to the clay. Next question from social media is, what colors of clay just don't work well? I know you said you moved away from using white, so I was curious if there were other colors also. So what they're talking about is I don't use white for a lot of my sculptures that need, a white section, like the white parts of their eyes. I use pearl because pearl doesn't seem to pick up as many specks that you get when you're sculpting as white does. Now, the only other color I've had an issue with is yellow, and I believe I might even have mixed something in with the zombie Big Bird because I didn't care because it's a zombie, and same with the eyes. I did use some white mixed with some stuff, but if you have a zombie, you don't care if you have specks on it. It really doesn't matter. But really, white's the main issue, and I've had some issues with yellow. The next question is, what is the biggest sculpture you have ever made out of clay? Well, honestly, I don't know. I've done some, I can't really bring up images on here. I know that's an option. If I stream using like a computer, I could use SteamYard. I can bring pictures up. But I've done some monster, like cartoon zombie heads that are pretty good size. But one of the tallest and more complex pieces I've done is this Michelangelo Ninja Turtle. But there's a little bit of a trick with this guy. And I did do a quick look video of him, so you guys might have seen that, but it was an older one. So if you didn't, I'm just going to show him real quick. He is almost 8 inches tall, but he's not really, because he is all held together with magnets. So I sculpted each piece individually, and then I put in these bolts in here and put these magnets on there to make him like a little action figure. And I used real chain for his nunchucks, and then I just put a piece of clay there to kind of block it so it would hold in his hand. So you can see there. And he doesn't stand quite the best. I've had him fall over a couple times. I've had to re-glue his bandana. But you can see there, it makes him a nice posable figure. There's enough weight here, but if you have it positioned right, you can get him in some poses. But what was nice about him is I could sculpt all the pieces individually and get them exactly how I want and then put him together. But I did have this idea I was going to do a bunch more, but I did this guy probably about 8 years ago. As you can see some of the shell detail. So maybe I need to go back and do another magnetic figure. If you guys have ideas of a figure you'd like me to see, you can leave a comment on that. Charcoal says, I'm working on a meme about low-tier characters in Smash. So who do you consider, who's a low-tier character in Smash? I have the latest one. I haven't played it a lot, but I do enjoy it. I love Nintendo stuff. Charcoal also says, that looks so sick. Thank you. The next question I have from social media is, what tools are a must-have for clay projects? Well, I could go with the whole generic answer of you know, just your hands. That's what's important. I mean, and that's the most important thing. But if you do want to get some tools, my 3 favorites are, what I consider essential is some type of ball tool, a needle tool, and an X-Acto knife. Now, here's the thing. You can get away with some substitutes for these, especially if you want to have like younger people working on it, and the X-Acto knife and the needle tool are definitely a no-no. But what you can do is you could try using a toothpick, or even like those little plastic swords that you get for like drinks, and using those as the same kind of functionality. You could also use a plastic knife. The clay itself, I mean, isn't going to require a sharp knife to cut, but it's easier to kind of cut it with something and then just tearing it apart, especially if you want to portion out your sizes. It is really nice, like if you're making eyes and you want to make sure you have about the same amount. Charcoal says Game & Watch is a no-no to me. Yeah, even being an older gamer, I know I've been around since, you know, the early days of the arcades. I never liked the Game & Watch games, and although I think it was neat that he was added to Smash games, it's not a character I've ever really played other than just to try him out. Tome says Minecraft and the Avengers. So you're saying for the mashup, Tome? That'd be a fun one. I'm going to make a note of that. I have not played a lot of Minecraft, but I played enough to be familiar with it, and I'm a huge Marvel fan. So that would definitely be a fun one. I have sculpted some creepers in the past. Charcoal says the Infinity Gauntlet can be the Gemstone Gauntlet. Should probably make a note because I wasn't familiar with the Gemstone Gauntlet. All right. So the last question I have from social media is, can somehow bake glitter onto the clay? Now, I personally have never put glitter into clay, but there are quite a few clays that have glitter in them. So instead of trying something out and worrying about there being an issue, I'm guessing there won't be since so many clays have glitter, but I would just recommend using the clays that have glitter and mixing it with another clay. And this Black Cat Witch is a good example of that because you can see how sparkly her cape is and her hat. Another thing is, like this comes as a blue glitter, but if you wanted to keep something, let's say yellow, and even though this guy's painted, but still if you want to use something yellow, you could mix in like an opal clay that has a lot of specks and little metallic flecks in there. So I would recommend mixing different clays together if there was a color that didn't come in glitter. I know there's a blue, I know there's a green, there's a white, and there's lots of different metallics. But like if you mixed the opal in with the pink, that would be, it would lighten it up a little bit, but the opal's not as dominant or as opaque as a white. It's not going to change the color as much as it would mixing it with like a white glitter or something. So I would recommend mixing the opal with the pink if you wanted to have like a pink glittery type clay to work with. Art with April says, are you familiar with Steven Universe? I'm familiar with it, April. I haven't watched any of them, but I mean, I don't need to be, super knowledgeable on it. If it's something somebody wants me to do a mashup of, I'd still be willing to, give it a try. Hello, Kujin, how are you? Just showing off, show and tell. Sharing some of my sculptures, talking about I want to start doing some more mashup videos. Charcoal asks, who's your Smash main? I started off with Kirby, because it, like the story mode or whatever that mode is. It's been months since I played it, and I really like Kirby. And plus, I'm terrible when your character gets knocked off of the stage, and so Kirby has a good recovery rate on there. I also like Simon Belmont, but that's more of a, I love Castlevania, and I also like Samus from Metroid. Those are three of my favorites. I haven't gotten the downloadable stuff, but I'm a huge fan of Fatal Fury, so I'd love to try out Terry Bogard. Kujin, I am doing good. I'm glad you're doing good. If you guys like animation, definitely check out Kujin's channel. He does a lot of cool little, very quick, cute, like dragon animations. April says a gem mixed with an animal, so I'll write that down. Gem and animal. Hello, Great Team Hero. What did you miss? You missed it all. We're pretty much wrapping things up. I shared a lot of my previous creations, answered some questions. We talked about the mashups coming back. Charcoal says, my main is Falco and secondary is Fox, and sometimes I play as Kirby. Charcoal says, furries will rise. Great Team Hero says, start over. Well, I'll tell you what, bud. As soon as this is done, just go to your history and go back to the beginning of it, and then you can play it, and it'll all be there for you. But I'm willing to stick around for a little bit if anybody has any questions or other mashup ideas. Kujin is looking forward to seeing more mashups. Awesome. To see what I do next. Tom will be right back. I might still be here. So, bring these guys around. Jessica says a mashup with Goku. My son would like that. He really likes Dragon Ball Z. Charcoal says I tried animation for the first time and I'm getting better at it. Awesome. I really want to do some stop motion animation with my clay. I've done some kind of like fake versions of it where I'll move and take a picture of an item, but I won't actually animate the item, but it kind of has a neat little look of it moving around. So make a note here for a Goku mashup. And I would like to still do one a month. Like I said, I did Peekazilla this month, so I'd like to do, something in June. And it just kind of depends on how long they take me. If you don't see one a month, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. Just, things happen. And if things work out, maybe there'll be months I have two in there if I have ideas that I'm really inspired by and have time. Kujin says, dude, I think it would be awesome to see you do some stop motion animation. Thank you. Yeah, I have an idea of doing ones with like a monster character. And I thought it would be cool to make him like a little kind of a set, like a TV set, where that would be all made out of clay, but I could use that as my background. Kujin says, how is the drawing coming along? I did some just the other day. It's nothing I put on my channel, but I'm working on a new Warbler mask, and I wanted to kind of mash up some different masks on that. It's not necessarily a mashup video, but it's several different elements from different masks. So I sketched that out first. So I mean, I'm getting more practice with it, but I still haven't posted another drawing video or have one ready. Charcoal says, how about Pikazilla destroying a city? I absolutely love that idea, but I'm going to have to start with something a little less complex or something that I can comprehend. I don't know how that would work. That's something I'd almost want to do with like some, puppets or something. Kujin says, how about a Godzilla monster fight as a stop motion? Yeah, and I need to do more research to see what I can even pull off. I kind of thought some kind of Wallace and Gromit type or Gumby type thing, but with my own character. But it would definitely be fun to have something that's more advanced. And I don't get how a lot of those stop motions are even done. I get the concept of stop motion animation, and I'm a big fan of Ray Harryhausen, who did stop motion animation for years with like Mighty Joe Young and the old Sinbad movies. So I mean, I love it, and I really think that would be a lot of fun, and I have the patience for it. And Great Team Hero says Kubo. I heard that's amazing. Kujin says, Andrew, get the book Animator Survival Kits. Yeah, and I think you talked about that before, and I didn't write it down, so I'm going to write it down now because I actually have pen and paper here. Or if I did write it down, I don't know where that's at. But if you guys go back and, not telling you to do it, but if you watch my very first video on YouTube, I talk about how, like different things I want to try on my channel, and stop motion animation was one of them. And it's really the only thing I haven't done that I really want to do. Great Team Hero says, what? You didn't watch it? It's so cool. Yeah, and I know my son loves it. I think the art style on it looks incredible. It's just one of those things I just never got around to it. If it's on streaming anywhere, I will promise to watch it this weekend. Maybe I'll even sculpt something from it. But I do have quite a few ideas already in progress. I have a new Warbler mask coming out Monday. I am doing the Ace of Clay challenge for the Goblin, so that'll be probably the following Monday. I've got a package from Legrandzilla for this model kit that wasn't what he was hoping for, and it's broken, so I'm going to see if I can redo that. And then I'm in another art challenge, and then I'm doing a collaboration with Sticky Art Channel. So it's kind of a, definitely a full schedule. Kujin says, I understand the ideas are many, I'm assuming many, but then time goes on. April says, would a British do dance? I don't know what that means. Zalzo, how are you? That sounds way too political. I don't think that has anything to do with my art. Does anybody have any questions about art or any ideas for other mashups? Kujin says, I love the colors and the designs of these characters. Thank you. And I feel like I don't, like I need to keep some motion going here, people tuning in, even though they can hear me. And I chose not to be on camera today because I wanted to have a real good view of everything. Jessica's still waiting for a Rick and Morty piece. Yes, I better write that down. We need to get that done. I need to get that done. I've watched more episodes of it, and I really like it. And they have some really cool stuff on there. Zalzo says, okay, I'm not going to lie. I usually like to go into streams and mess with the chat and stuff, but this art is actually really awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I get it. I've seen several chats be, taken over with different conversations, and, I don't really mind what people talk about, but I'm not going to necessarily cover something that's you know, I'm not an expert on. April says, I'm drawing and I'm about to make my character a dancer and they are British. Okay, that makes more sense, April. Are you going to post this on your channel? Brandy says the pony is perfection. Thank you. I really like adding the different elements, making it kind of a mixed media piece, and you know, it gives her more options when, you know, putting her on display. You could have the mane over or kind of cover it up, bring it out. And I stole this yarn out of my wife's art room, and it's worked out just perfect for this. Charcoal said, I made myself a channel banner. Every time I have the right size, it declines it. Oh no, that's not good. I just put a picture of blobs for mine. April says, no, probably not. Then Charcoal says, but if. Kujin says, Andrew, are you planning on doing more mixed media creations? Yeah, actually, 1 second here. Zalzo says, I'm going to go for now, but I'm going to subscribe. Have a nice day. Thanks, Zalzo. You have an awesome night. Thanks for popping on the stream. So, yeah, actually, if you guys are familiar, I'm sure you are, or a lot of you are, with Ace of Clay, he's doing a challenge, and he did a character generator. And on that character, it was like goblin, young, male, relaxed, two-handed axe, and there's a couple other attributes. And so you're supposed to make something with those attributes. But I immediately thought, I want to do like a sea goblin or some kind of pirate goblin. So I thought it would be fun to take some like clamshells, you know. So when I get these seashells, I also get clamshells. So I thought it would be fun to take some clamshells and make the blade out of the battle axe out of a clamshell, and then maybe take some smaller shells if I have them and decorate it. And then I'm going to sculpt him out of clay. And oh, it says crazy hair. So I want to add some wool for the hair, like a mohawk, kind of how I did the troll hair. And I want to add possibly some fur for some clothes, or maybe some smaller shells for like some armor. So that's my next piece that'll have mixed media stuff in it. Charcoal says, you know those DGY Reddit posts that are like, the world made me edgy and this way and stuff? I think those are kind of bogus. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with what those are, Charcoal. I'm sorry. Kujin says, that sounds awesome. Thank you. I hope it turns out as cool as it sounds in my head. So some things turn out better, some things turn out worse, and at this point I just accept it and move on. And it's fun to do stuff for YouTube videos because I'm pretty scheduled for those. And so I give myself a deadline so I don't, how do I put it, like, you know, like lots of times you're like, is this done? Is this done? And then you keep working at it and then you actually make it worse. And so hopefully I can avoid doing that and not overworking on a project. Charcoal says, I'll bet it come out amazing. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. I would like to do another stream for the Let's Make a Robot. I want to do those once a month, and I haven't done one this month. Hi, Samantha. How are you? This was a lot of fun. Just kind of this cute, goofy little robot. Kujin says, the shells, do you have to put something over them? I bet they would break easy. No, I haven't had any issues. And like when I bake these, I mean, they're fine. I've used some clamshells for some other monsters. I've never had an issue. And for him, I think I'm going to use like a branch, like just this little twig for the handle of the battle axe. So I actually won't have to bake the axe at all anyway, so I won't have to worry about that. I'm just going to glue it in place and then sculpt his hand so it can kind of rest in them. And it should be fine. At least that's my plan. You guys can find out if it works out. Samantha is good. I am doing really good tonight. Just having fun sharing my creations, chatting, I had some questions I answered earlier that I had on social media. So if anybody's logging in late, if you want to watch that, you can go back and watch the replay. Kujin says, out of creations here, what is your favorite? Probably, I'm really happy with the Toy Story three-eyed alien dragon. That's definitely one of my favorites. It was one of those that wasn't quite turning out when I was making it, and then, kept working with it, and it turned out, better than I thought it was going to. Of course, I like Pikazilla, but he's really new, so, you always have that shiny new penny thing. Great Team Hero says Iron Man Turtle. Yeah, the Donatello Turtle, my first mashup. Like I say, he's got glow-in-the-dark eyes, glow-in-the-dark chest piece. I don't think I mentioned that before, and a glow-in-the-dark blaster. So he's pew! See the turtle shell detail on there. And I did him in scale with not the most recent, but the CGI Nickelodeon turtles, the toys that came out with those. I had some of those, so I did them in scale with those. And I was able to use those as a reference too, which was nice. I used those, and I had an Iron Man figure. And I've mentioned this before on some of my videos, but it's nice if you can have a 3D reference, because it really helps with proportions and adding the detail if you're doing something from pop culture. Alrighty. Does anybody else have any questions? And if you guys come up with a mashup idea after the fact, you can leave the comment in any of my videos. Just say, hey, I'd like to see this as a mashup. Kujin says, I think what would be awesome to see more mashups of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles characters. Yeah, I could do them all on this scale. So I'll make a note and do each turtle, and then maybe start some of the others. Some of them are kind of mashups anyway. I mean, they're turtles and humans, but yeah, to go with the superhero thing, and even I think of like Darth Vader because he's got that samurai look, and they've done samurai figures of him, like him as Shredder. If you want to keep it with the superhero stuff, even like Magneto as Shredder. Keep it, with the Marvel, but you could do DC also. So I'll just make a note for TMNT superheroes. Pretty much have enough ideas to keep me going till the end of the year, but, I'll most likely get a new one and want to focus on that because that's like what's going through my mind. Kujin says like DC and Marvel, Star Wars and Star Trek. Oh, should I do like Star Wars characters as Star Trek characters and vice versa? Charcoal says I have like 5 Undertale fan art pieces I haven't uploaded yet. Oof. So I'm gonna make a note here. Star Wars. Some people will think that's cool, and some people are like, no, Star Trek's better, and others will be like, Star Wars is better. I've enjoyed both pretty much as, long as Star Wars, I've enjoyed it since it came out. Star Trek was already in reruns when I remember watching it on TV, but I've been a fan since I was a little kid, so, I don't have animosity towards one or the other. I'm definitely a bigger Star Wars fan, but I think that's just because of it was more action-packed when I was a kid. But I've definitely enjoyed a lot of both through the years. They've also had some bad on both franchises, but it'd be cool. I'd almost want to do a group of them, like Han and Chewie and Luke and Leia all on the bridge of the Enterprise. April says Undertale and My Little Pony. I know my son's a fan of Undertale, or has been. Yeah, he hasn't said anything about it recently, but Kujin says, I was first meeting the Turtles, but the mashups would be awesome to see other mashups. Actually, Kujin, I don't know if you knew this, that I think they have Star Trek Turtles from back when the Turtles were out in the 80s and early 90s. I remember seeing the toys of that. You'll have to Google that, but I'm pretty sure those are a thing. They haven't done Star Wars ones, but I think they've done maybe Ghostbuster ones recently, and some like WWE wrestler ones. Great Team Hero says My Hero Academia and Marvel. You know, I've watched anime. I've not seen that one. I know that's a really popular one right now. I have a whole bunch of anime in my Netflix queue that I haven't watched all of. But I will make a note of that. I think that would be pretty popular too. I mean, since they're both popular franchises, it'd be fun. I'll have to do some research, meaning watch some of the episodes. So that would be fun. Kujin says, I do recall Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had like thousands of mashups back in the day. Yeah, they got some crazy stuff towards the end. Charcoal says you should try mashing up Star Fox and Star Wars too, since they're both sci-fi action games and movies. Yeah, those would be a good one. I could see Cloud in like a Rebel pilot outfit. That'd be fun. So, Star Fox, Star Wars. Kind of moving around a little bit, and hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I can never tell the audio level on my live streams. God, I'm getting enough ideas. I need to start doing one of these a week. Because pretty much everything I've written down I think would be fun to try out. And that's one of my favorite things about sculpting is you can walk into Walmart and you can get a Pikachu and you can get a Godzilla if they're in stock, but you're not going to get Pikazilla, you know? So, I mean, the mashups are fun. And, you know, I'm not selling these. So, I mean, I don't think Nintendo or Toho's going to care. And if I did sell them, I don't even know if they care then either. I mean, yeah, they're one of a kind. I'm not mass producing anything. I'm not hurting any of their sales. But Big Bird might get frowned upon since I made him a zombie. Well, those guys have been difficult tonight, or I've just been clumsy, but I'm blaming them. So, all right. I mean, like I said, I'd like to do another magnet character sometime. Maybe I would, not so big. I think I did a Cyberman for my daughter that just had a magnetic head, so you could, pose it. So, and I think I would avoid doing magnets in the legs, but maybe if it was a smaller character did the arms, they would hold a little bit better. And then, obviously, like I said, doing that in the head. Kujin says, so is that a zombie Big Bird? Yes. And there is a video of it. It was one of the mashups. Great Team Hero says, Magnet Spider-Man, so it can't fall off my fridge. That's actually a pretty brilliant idea. Charcoal says, I'm going to go now. See you next stream. See you, Charcoal. This one's probably about done. I just wanted to show Kujin a good look at Zombie Big Bird. I did put gloss over the gory bits to make it shiny and the eyes. So there's the Zombie Big Bird. Hello, Toast. Just about finishing up here. Does anybody else have any other ideas? That's okay. I mean, I understand. I'm just letting you know. But if you have any questions, Toast, or if you have ideas for mashups, that's what I'm kind of going over tonight. Hello, Jesse. Follow that bird. Follow that bird right to the apocalypse. So I will stay on a couple more minutes to see if anybody has any more questions or ideas for mashups. So I'm thinking the more the merrier, and I can go over my list and see what strikes me at the time when I have time to sculpt. It's one thing I've noticed, and if you guys make art, I don't know if you're like this, but like right now I might be in the mood to make Star Wars Star Trek mashup, but then by Sunday morning when I go to sculpt, I might rather do Undertale My Little Pony. Yeah, I should write down that Spider-Man magnet. Sometimes things are so obvious and I never, it's like I can't believe I didn't think about that. I remember wanting the Mego Spider-Man toys when I was a kid, and there's like the city you could make, and I think they put Velcro on it so it would like cling to the city. And I don't think the city was like a manufactured thing. I think it was like in a magazine where you could cut it out of cardboard or something. But I just thought it was so cool to have Spider-Man hanging from the building. So. Fujin says, "How about a Venom with that?" Yeah, that would be cool. Could even do both of them. I know Venom's easier to sculpt because you don't have to worry about the lines. I could also do like a Spider-Gwen, Miles. There's a lot of other characters to do in the Spider-Verse now, so that'd be fun. Yeah, the whole Spider family. And I've done like a Spider-Man necklace before, and I sculpted all the webbing on it, and it wasn't too bad. But trying to do a full figure, I don't know. So I don't know if it would be easier to try to paint the lines on. I'll have to look to see, other people that have sculpted Spider-Man and how they did it. Like rearrange here. All right, guys. Well, it's been about an hour, a little over an hour. So I appreciate everybody coming on today. Had a lot of fun sharing my creations, answering questions, getting a ton of new ideas. So that's awesome. I appreciate everybody coming on. I will be live on Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time for our next Let's Make a Monster live stream. So I hope to see everybody on then. And like I said, if you have ideas for future mashups, you can just leave it in the comments on this video or any of my other videos. I get notified in the order the comments are received, so I should see it, and I will add it to my list. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. And remember, never stop creating. Bye.